I want to help you get started successfully on your SaaS journey by focusing on and solving what I would consider to be the biggest problem and the greatest barrier to success in SaaS for most people. And that's finding a problem worth solving. So let's discuss. Now, where this comes from is my first SaaS or my first venture trying to build a successful SaaS company crashed and burned. And it crashed and burned because I fell victim to what I would consider be one of the biggest traps that sinks people that want to do something like that. And it's I built a solution to a problem that didn't exist. Now, what that means is the solution I built was an idea I was excited about, but my target market just was not. The problem wasn't big enough for them. It wasn't something that was causing them a great deal of pain. It wasn't very expensive. It wasn't hugely time consuming, right? It didn't have the characteristics it needed in order for them to go search out a different solution and then potentially pay for it as well also. So that's why I was unsuccessful. And this is where I want to focus. Now, in this content, what I'm going to refer to is helping you with one of what I think is the best, probably easiest way to find good problems worth solving. And I'm even going to give you an example of one. And I've got a number of those are coming to me all the time. I'm excited to be back building because AI is just making it that much easier these days, but I can't build all these solutions myself. As such, I'm talking about creating an online community for folks like us who want to go from 0 to 1, where we can workshop and share ideas like this. I've got a ton of them. I can't build them all. I want to share them with you. I need an outlet for that, and I don't have one yet. So if you have any interest in that, please reach out to me and let me know or leave a comment below, and we'll discuss that further. But let's get back to problems we're solving and the example I want to share with you. Now, the strategy that I want to share with you that I think is arguably the most successful and easiest one to follow here that I've seen in building a SaaS around a problem worth solving is by solving your own problem. This sounds easy, and from my perspective, it largely is because no one understands the problems that you want to solve better than you will if they're your problems, right? It's like you experience them arguably all the time, maybe, right? So you've got all the context and you are the person probably looking for the solution to that problem. And I'm going to give you one that I experienced this week by the end of this content. But basically, start by solving your own problem. That is a great place to start. And chances are, if you've got a problem for which there isn't a great solution, especially if it matches those other characteristics I mentioned, other people do too. And that means whatever solution you bring to market is going to have even more potential if you find other people like you. So that's point number one. The second one is people often think that you need a product or a solution to be live for you to be able to sell it. And that is just completely wrong. You really don't. It doesn't matter what it is, even if you're talking physical products, right? Like I can better understand who you are, what you're experiencing, the problems, the pain you have, whatever is frustrating you. And I can better understand what options you have available to solve the problems and challenges that you're experiencing without actually designing or building a solution myself. I might want to know a little bit more about the technical viability of whether or not it can work, because we don't want to insert magic here, right? But it doesn't mean I need to build it. So once you have some of these pieces in place or some theories you want to test, immediately jump in and go right to your target market, start selling it, right? You don't necessarily need it, but just start better understanding through the research in terms of how much opportunity there is actually out there in order to bring something like this to market. As such, that context is going to save you all kinds of pain and frustration potentially later if you haven't quite got those variables lined up right before you move on to the solution design phase. So that's number two, and it can be counterintuitive. So I want to spend a little bit more time on that one. The third is that I've mentioned a couple of these characteristics already, but your problem worth solving becomes creates a greater opportunity for you the more you layer on each of these pieces. So the first is pain, right? And I give the example a lot of like painkillers versus vitamins, right? People take vitamins proactively for things that may or may not have a direct effect. And sometimes, right, it can be hard to tell. But I'm one who suffers from headaches. I've got painkillers I take when I have those headaches, and it treats it pretty much immediately. So there is a much greater sense of urgency for me to have access to those painkillers, especially if I'm going to have a headache versus vitamins. That's a literal example, but you can think of this in terms of how you're categorizing different potential problems we're solving, right? Because they're not all created equal. Pain is one. Other good elements to look for as well too that increase your potential opportunity here and give you a better idea how strong Basically, the opportunity here might be is how much time is it taking? How much frustration is it causing? How much does it cost, right? So all of those characteristics, the more of those you have and the more intense each of those is, the greater the opportunity here and the better problem we're solving that you've discovered. So that's important also. Now let's talk about how you apply these in the research that you want to do in finding your own problem we're solving. Well, the best recommendation that I have is that, again, if you want to leverage your own, solve your own problems, think back this year, think through 2025 or whatever. What were the bigger problems that you had? What did you experience? Where did you lose a ton of time? What was super frustrating? What was coming up time and time again that was driving you crazy, right? That exercise alone is likely to iron out and give you a couple of potential ideas. And I'm going to give you the example that I just thought of this week by something I went through myself personally, and I know others are going through it. I didn't search for solutions, but if there isn't one out there, this is an opportunity for you to potentially build around as well also. So I'm trying to get some tests done with my, medical professionals and teams and doctors of mine, and they were helping me try to get approved for that through insurance. And the first round of that, I've been denied. Surprise, surprise. I live in the US. It is what it is, right? It's a problem, right? But they didn't just deny it, they provided justifications for why they are saying that they're not going to cover that test. That list of justifications normally for me would create a just ton of time and effort to try to figure out how do I navigate this thing. I'm not a medical professional. So what I did is I leveraged AI, I fired up Claude, and I gave it the context. I said, here's what's going on, here's what I'm trying to get done, here's where I'm stuck, right? Insurance has denied this, my attempt to want to get this test done. And I gave them that context. Once I gave them that context, I gave them the rest of here's what I've already done that I can use to build a case against insurance to help me with getting the approval I need in order to get that procedure done or that test done or whatever, right? And it produced something significant that I'm going to be able to use to go back and forth with them to try to get that and secure that approval, right? So what I've just given you is a problem I've experienced, a problem I know others have experienced, maybe you as well too, for unfortunately, but it does create a potential opportunity in the market if a solution doesn't exist. And I've also talked you through the potential way to solution design your way to maybe a SaaS application here, right? Like for people that have this problem, they may be looking for solutions. I know I certainly would have, and I ended up having to workshop one myself. But if one existed, you could sell that to any number of different players in these industries, right? So there's a great example of problem I had, a solution I needed to go find because I didn't have one, and I used AI, used tech in order to do that. But that's an opportunity to turn into potential product or something out there that can turn into a business that helps people, right? And provides a ton of value. So that's that's the challenge here is like think back through problems, challenges you've had yourself, take the idea I just gave you, run with that, right? Create something that helps people because I know this is a problem that others experience as well too. So that's what I wanted to cover for today. Finding good problems we're solving is an area where you're going to get a great return if you spend more time and leverage the strategies that I shared in order to do so, right? Solve your own problems, right? Layer on pain, frustration, time consuming, expensive elements, right? The more of those characteristics wind up in the right, essentially intense level of intensity for your target market, the stronger their motivation is going to be in order to go find a better solution. And maybe that's yours, right? And then the counterintuitive element is like, you can start selling this pretty much immediately. Once you've got those elements lined up, like I just gave you the anecdote example of the healthcare provider test or whatever kind of thing, start workshopping that around. See whether or not if you brought something like that to market, it could be successful. So curious to hear your feedback. Reach out, let me know. And as usual, if you have any questions from me, just send those over as well too.